Liam was a quiet boy. He was 9 years old and went to a small public school in a town where everyone knew each other. Liam did not speak much in class, but he was always polite and did his homework on time. He liked to sit quietly and watch the world around him. His father, Mark, was proud of him, even though sometimes he worried that Liam was too shy. Mark worked very hard. He was a single father who took care of Liam all by himself. Every morning before going to work, he would wake up early and make breakfast for Liam. After that, he would pack a lunchbox with simple but healthy food. Sometimes it was a sandwich, sometimes rice with vegetables, or a small piece of chicken. He also put in some fruit and a small bottle of juice. Mark didn't have a lot of money, but he wanted to make sure Liam had good food to eat at school. Liam would thank his father every morning before leaving for school. He always smiled softly and said, "Thank you, Dad." Mark knew that Liam loved him very much, even though he didn't say it out loud often. Sometimes, when Mark was tired after a long day at work, Liam's small smile gave him strength to keep going. But slowly, Mark started noticing something strange. When Liam came home from school, he seemed tired and not very happy. He did not eat the lunch Mark packed very often. When Mark asked him why, Liam would say, "I wasn't very hungry," or "I forgot my lunch." Sometimes he said he was busy playing and didn't have time to eat. But Mark felt something was wrong. Liam looked thinner. His cheeks were not as round as before, and he looked pale. One afternoon, Mark sat down with Liam after dinner. He looked at his son carefully and said softly, "Liam, is everything okay at school? You don't look well and you don't eat the lunch I pack. Can you tell me the truth?" Liam's eyes filled with tears. He was afraid, but also wanted to tell his father the truth. Slowly he said, "Dad, I don't want to make you sad, but my teacher, she takes my lunch every day." Mark's heart stopped. He could not believe what he was hearing. "Your teacher takes your lunch? Are you sure, Liam?" Liam nodded, tears rolling down his cheeks. "Yes, every day she takes it. She says I don't need it, and sometimes she eats it in front of the class." The other kids laugh. "I don't want to go to school anymore." Mark was shocked and angry. How could a teacher do this to a child? Teachers are supposed to protect children and help them learn, not take their food or hurt their feelings. But Liam was too scared to tell anyone else. He felt lonely and hungry at school every day. Mark wanted to help his son, but he didn't know what to do. The next morning, Mark made Liam's lunch as usual. This time he added a little extra food and gave Liam a small hug before he left for school. "I'm proud of you, Liam. We will figure this out together." At school, Liam tried to hide his lunch, but Mrs. Hartley, the teacher, always found it. She would take the lunch and say it was for the class. Sometimes she said Liam should share because his father could afford better food. The other children listened and laughed, and Liam felt very small and embarrassed. Mark called the school office. He wanted to talk to the principal, but the principal said, "We don't have any complaints about Mrs. Hartley." Maybe Liam misunderstood. Mark felt frustrated. How could they not believe his son? But he didn't give up. He told Liam to be brave and keep telling the truth. Mark promised to find a way to stop this. Every day after school, Liam would tell his father what happened. Sometimes he felt better just by talking. Mark listened carefully and made notes. He wanted to protect Liam and make sure no child would ever have to feel so sad and hungry. One evening, Mark thought of an idea. If they could prove what Mrs. Hartley was doing, maybe the school would have to listen. He decided to put a small recorder in Liam's lunchbox the next day. That way they could catch what the teacher said and did. Liam was nervous, but agreed. He wanted to be brave for his father and for himself. The next morning, Mark packed Liam's lunch with the hidden recorder inside. He told Liam to stay strong and not be afraid. At school, Liam watched closely as Mrs. Hartley took his lunch again. This time, she didn't know she was being recorded. She talked to the other children about Liam's food and said mean things. Liam felt scared but also relieved to know the truth was being heard. After school, Mark listened to the recording. His heart hurt to hear the teacher's voice. She was cruel and unfair. But now, Mark had proof. The next day, Mark sent the recording to the school principal again. This time the principal couldn't ignore it. They had to investigate Mrs. Hartley's behavior. Slowly, other parents and students started talking about their own experiences. It was not just Liam. Mrs. Hartley had been treating children badly for a long time. The school finally took action. Mrs. Hartley was suspended while they looked into the complaints. Liam felt safer knowing his father was fighting for him. Mark and Liam grew closer during this time. They talked every day about courage and kindness. Liam learned to speak up, and Mark promised to always protect his son. Though the road was hard, Liam slowly began to smile again. He made new friends and started to enjoy school once more. Mark felt hope that no child should ever feel hungry or afraid in their own classroom. Together, they showed that even small voices can make a big difference. And sometimes, love and courage are the strongest weapons against unfairness. After Liam told his father about the teacher taking his lunch every day, Mark felt a mixture of emotions. At first, he could hardly believe it. How could a teacher, someone who was supposed to care for children and help them learn, behave so badly? But Liam's tears and quiet voice made it clear that this was real. Mark's mind raced with questions and worries. He wanted to protect his son but didn't know where to start. Liam explained more about what happened at school. Mrs. Hartley, his teacher, had been taking Liam's lunch every day for weeks. She said it was to teach Liam a lesson about sharing and to help the class. She told the other children that Liam's father was rich and that Liam should share his food because some children had nothing. The other kids laughed and teased Liam, making him feel embarrassed and small. Sometimes Mrs. Hartley would eat his food in front of the whole class and say, "See, this boy can afford better, so why should I not have a taste?" Hearing this made Mark's heart ache. Liam, who was already shy and quiet, felt humiliated in front of the whole class. He was hungry, tired, and afraid to speak up because Mrs. Hartley threatened to punish him if he did. Liam did not want to disappoint his father, so he stayed silent for so long. Mark thought carefully about what to do. He first called the school office and asked to meet with the principal. When Mark explained the situation, he expected the principal to be shocked and take quick action. But the principal said it was probably a misunderstanding and that the teacher had a good record. They said there was no proof and asked Mark to calm down. Mark felt frustrated and helpless. He wanted someone to listen and help, but the adults at the school seemed to protect the teacher. Mark was a proud man, but also a humble one. He believed in fairness and kindness, and he wanted his son to learn those values. But now he faced a difficult situation. How could he protect Liam from a person in authority who was being so unfair? How could he stop the hurt without proof? That night, Mark sat with Liam at the kitchen table. The small room was quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator. Liam looked down, holding his spoon loosely. Mark said gently, "Liam, you are very brave to tell me all of this. We will find a way to make it better. I promise you." Liam looked up, eyes shining with a mix of hope and fear. "But what if she gets mad at me?" he asked. Mark smiled softly and said, "No one should be afraid of telling the truth. We will do this together." The next morning, Mark packed Liam's lunch carefully. He made sure to include enough food for the day because Liam was growing thinner. Mark also thought of a plan to catch the teacher's behavior, so the school would have to listen. He decided to put a small voice recorder in Liam's lunchbox. That way, they could prove what Mrs. Hartley was doing. Liam was nervous but trusted his father. He promised to be brave. Mark also wrote a note for Mrs. Hartley and asked Liam to give it to her. The note was polite but firm. It said that taking Liam's lunch was wrong and hurtful, and asked her to stop immediately. At school, Liam watched Mrs. Hartley closely. She took his lunch again and opened it in front of the class. When she saw the note, her face changed. She looked surprised and angry. She said loud enough for the class to hear, "Who gave you this? You will get punished if you bring things like this." Liam felt scared but kept quiet. He wanted to get home and tell his father everything. After school, Mark listened to the recording. His heart sank as he heard Mrs. Hartley's voice making fun of Liam and threatening him. It was hard to hear, but Mark was relieved to have proof. He knew this recording could change everything. Mark sent the recording and note to the school principal again. This time, the principal could not ignore it. They promised to investigate. Soon, other parents and students began to talk. Some children whispered that they too had been treated badly by Mrs. Hartley. A few parents said their children came home sad and scared. It seemed that Liam was not alone. The school had to take the complaints seriously. Mrs. Hartley was suspended while they investigated. Mark and Liam felt safer. The principal met with Mark and promised to make sure no child would be treated unfairly again. Liam slowly began to smile again. He found a few friends in the class who supported him. He felt less alone. Mark and Liam became closer than ever. They talked about courage, kindness, and the importance of standing up for what is right. Mark told Liam that sometimes people who should protect us make mistakes, but that does not mean we should give up. The story did not end quickly or easily. It took time for Liam to heal. He still felt nervous at school sometimes, but he was stronger now. He learned to speak up and to trust that his father would always be there for him. Mark also worked with the school to change the rules. They created new policies to protect children's rights and to make sure teachers behave with respect. The school promised to listen carefully to children and parents from then on. This difficult experience taught Mark and Liam many things about trust, love, and justice. It showed them that even in hard times, they could fight for what is right. Mark was proud of Liam's bravery. He knew his son was growing into a kind and strong young boy. Together, they faced the challenge and made a difference not just for themselves, but for many other children too. After Mark heard the terrible things Mrs. Hartley said and did to Liam, he knew they needed a stronger plan to stop her. The recording gave them proof, but Mark wanted to make sure Liam was safe every day at school. He wanted to show the school and the teacher that Liam was not alone and that they were serious about stopping this unfair treatment. One evening, Mark sat down with Liam to talk about what to do next. He wanted Liam to feel brave and ready to face school again. Liam was still scared but trusted his father completely. Mark promised him they would work together and that Liam would never have to face this alone. Mark decided to take an important step. He would put a small hidden recording device in Liam's lunchbox every day to capture what Mrs. Hartley said and did. But this time, Mark also wrote a note to Mrs. Hartley and asked Liam to give it to her in class. The note was carefully written, not angry but firm. It explained how taking a child's lunch was wrong and hurtful, and it asked her to stop immediately. Mark hoped the note would make Mrs. Hartley think twice. On the morning of the plan, Mark packed Liam's lunch with the recorder hidden inside. Liam was nervous as he walked to school, but his father gave him a hug and said, "Be brave, Liam. We believe in you." When Liam reached his classroom, Mrs. Hartley smiled coldly as always. As soon as she saw Liam's lunchbox, she took it and started opening it in front of the class. Liam felt his heart pounding. He remembered his father's words and stayed quiet. Then, Mrs. Hartley noticed the note inside the lunchbox. She read it slowly and her expression changed. Her eyes grew narrow and she looked very angry. She spoke loudly to the class. "Who gave you this note? If you bring things like this, you will be punished." Liam felt scared but did not say a word. He knew his father was waiting for him after school, and he had to be strong. That day, Liam sat quietly and watched as Mrs. Hartley took his lunch again. But this time, she was more careful and angry. Liam wondered what would happen next. After school, Mark immediately listened to the new recording. His heart ached to hear Mrs. Hartley's harsh words and mean tone. She spoke about Liam in a way no teacher should. But Mark was glad to have more proof now. This recording was even clearer than before. Mark knew they had to act quickly. He sent the recording and the note to the school principal again, asking for serious action. This time, the principal could not ignore it. The school promised to investigate immediately. Meanwhile, Liam's classmates started noticing what was happening. Some children whispered to each other about Mrs. Hartley's unfairness. A few classmates showed sympathy towards Liam and began to protect him. Liam slowly felt less alone. At home, Mark and Liam talked a lot about courage. Mark told Liam that sometimes adults make mistakes, but that did not mean they should be scared or give up. He reminded Liam how brave he was to tell the truth and to stand strong. Days passed, and the school started an official investigation. The principal called meetings with teachers and parents. Some parents came forward to say their children had also been unhappy with Mrs. Hartley. It seemed this was not a problem with only Liam, but something bigger. The school decided to suspend Mrs. Hartley while they looked into the complaints. This was a relief for Liam and Mark. They felt safer knowing the teacher who had hurt Liam was no longer in the classroom for the moment. Liam started to feel more confident. He made a few friends who stood by him. He was still shy but less afraid. He even started participating in class activities. Mark noticed the change and was proud. At the same time, Mark worked with the school to create new rules. They talked about how teachers should treat students with kindness and respect. The school promised to listen carefully to children and parents in the future and to act quickly if a problem came up again. Though the situation was difficult, Mark and Liam learned important lessons about standing up for what is right. They understood that even small voices can be powerful when people work together. Liam still remembered how scared he had been, but now he felt stronger. He knew he had his father's love and support, and he knew he had helped change the school for the better. Mark and Liam's journey was not over, but they had taken the hardest steps. They had faced unfairness and fear with courage and honesty, and that made all the difference. After Mark sent the recording and the note to the school principal, things started to change, slowly but surely. This time, the principal could not ignore the proof. The voice recording clearly showed Mrs. Hartley taking Liam's lunch and speaking, in a mean and unfair way about him. It was hard to hear, but it was real. The school had no choice but to take the matter seriously. The principal called a meeting with the school board and some teachers. They talked about the recording and the complaints from other students and parents. It turned out that Liam was not the only child who had been treated badly by Mrs. Hartley. Others quietly shared their stories of being embarrassed or even punished unfairly in her class. One parent said her daughter came home crying because Mrs. Hartley made fun of her clothes. Another said her son was often called lazy, even though he tried hard. These stories made the principal and school officials realize that something had to be done. The school could no longer protect a teacher who was hurting children. The school board decided to suspend Mrs. Hartley immediately while they investigated the matter further. Suspension meant she would not be allowed to teach or come near the school during the investigation. This decision was a relief to Liam and Mark. For the first time in many weeks, Liam felt safe at school. The news about the suspension spread quickly. Some parents were upset because they had trusted Mrs. Hartley to take care of their children. Others were angry and demanded more action to protect students. The school promised to listen and to make sure this would never happen again. At home, Liam and Mark talked about what was happening. Liam was still scared but also hopeful. He told his father that some of the other children in his class had started to be nicer to him. They didn't laugh or tease anymore. A few even asked if they could sit with him during lunch. Liam felt happy and accepted for the first time in a long while. Mark was proud of Liam's courage. He knew it took a lot of strength for a young boy to face a difficult situation and speak the truth. Mark reminded Liam that speaking up was important, not just for him but for other children who might be suffering in silence. The school arranged for Liam to meet with a counselor. This was to help him feel better and heal from the emotional pain he had experienced. The counselor was kind and patient. Liam slowly learned to talk about his feelings and to trust again. While Liam was healing, the school worked on improving its rules. They created new policies to protect children's rights and to make sure teachers behaved respectfully. The school introduced training programs for teachers to learn how to support students better and to recognize signs of bullying or unfair treatment. Mark attended some of the school board meetings to share his experience and ideas. He wanted to make sure the school was a safe place for every child. Other parents joined him, and together they formed a group to support students and families facing similar problems. The community started to pay attention. Local newspapers wrote stories about what happened at the school. Some people were surprised and saddened that a teacher could behave so badly. Others praised Mark and Liam for their bravery and for standing up for what was right. As the investigation continued, more details about Mrs. Hartley's behavior came to light. It was clear that her actions were not only unfair, but also harmful. The school board decided that Mrs. Hartley should lose her job. They wanted to send a message that hurting children would not be tolerated. When Liam heard the news, he felt a mix of relief and sadness. He did not want anyone to lose their job, but he knew Mrs. Hartley had caused pain to many children, including him. Liam hoped that she would learn from her mistakes and become a better person. After the investigation, the school thanked Mark and Liam for their courage. They apologized for not listening sooner and promised to do better. Mark accepted the apology but reminded them that actions speak louder than words. He wanted to see real change in the school culture. Liam continued to attend school, and slowly things got better. His classmates were kinder, and teachers were more aware of how to treat students with respect. Liam found new friends and started to enjoy learning again. He still remembered the hard times, but felt proud of how far he had come. Mark and Liam's story became a lesson for the whole community. It showed that even when adults make mistakes, children's voices matter. It taught everyone the importance of kindness, fairness, and standing up against wrong. The experience brought Mark and Liam closer. They spent more time together, talking about life, courage, and hope. Mark was grateful for his son's strength and knew that Liam's future was bright. Though the road was difficult, their journey showed that truth and love can overcome even the hardest challenges. They had turned pain into power and helped create a safer, kinder school for everyone. The weeks after Mrs. Hartley's suspension and the school's investigation were very important for Liam and his family. Even though the worst was over, the journey to healing and making sure this never happened again was just beginning. Mark and Liam knew they had to keep working together to make sure school was a safe, happy place for all children, including Liam. Liam felt a big change inside himself. Before, he was quiet and scared, afraid of going to school. Now he was slowly becoming confident. He still remembered the painful days when his lunch was taken and he was teased, but he no longer felt powerless. He learned that telling the truth and standing up for himself was the right thing to do. Every morning, Liam went to school with a smile growing in his heart. His new teacher, Ms. Garcia, was kind and understanding. She listened carefully and made sure no child felt left out or hurt. Liam was happy to participate in class and even joined the school's soccer team. Playing soccer helped Liam make more friends and feel stronger. Mark watched Liam closely and felt proud. He could see that his son was healing, both in body and mind. Liam had started eating better and was growing stronger. Mark made sure to spend time with Liam every day after school. They would talk about everything: the school, friends, dreams, and fears. These talks made Liam feel loved and safe. At the same time, Mark stayed involved with the school. He became part of a parent-teacher group focused on improving the school environment. This group worked to ensure all students were respected and protected. They organized workshops for parents and teachers about kindness, bullying prevention, and children's rights. Mark and Liam also shared their story at community meetings. They wanted other families to know that if their children ever faced unfair treatment, they should speak up. Mark's story inspired many parents to become more active in their children's education and safety. It was important to him that no other child felt as lonely or scared as Liam once did. The school continued to make changes. New policies were created to handle complaints quickly and fairly. Teachers were trained to recognize bullying and to support children who might be struggling. The school set up a special safe space where children could talk to counselors whenever they needed help. Liam visited the school counselor regularly. Talking about his feelings helped him understand and overcome the fear and sadness he had carried for so long. The counselor taught him ways to handle difficult situations and encouraged him to believe in himself. Liam's confidence grew day by day. Even though Liam was feeling better, he sometimes still worried about what had happened. He wondered why Mrs. Hartley had treated him so badly. Mark explained that sometimes people hurt others because of their own problems, but that did not make it right. They talked about forgiveness and how it was important to move forward without hate. One day, at a school assembly, Liam stood in front of his classmates and shared his story. It was a big step for him. He told them how hard it was when someone in charge took away his lunch and made him feel small. He told them how brave he felt when he finally told his father. And he told them how important it is to be kind and stand up for friends who need help. The children listened quietly and then clapped. Liam felt proud. He saw some classmates who had once been mean, now looking at him with respect. Liam knew he had changed not only himself but also others. Mark and Liam's story spread beyond their school. Local newspapers wrote about their courage and the changes in the school. Other schools invited Mark to speak to teachers and parents about protecting children and creating safe learning spaces. Mark realized their small family fight had become a powerful lesson for many. Despite the attention, Mark and Liam stayed humble. They were not heroes. They were just a father and son who stood up for what was right. They wanted everyone to know that anyone could make a difference if they spoke out and worked together. As the months passed, Liam grew stronger in every way. His laughter returned, and he enjoyed learning and playing with friends. Mark was grateful every day for his son's happiness and the support from their community. Their journey had been hard, but it taught them about courage, love, and the power of truth. They knew life would have challenges, but together they could face anything. Mark often reminded Liam, "You are strong, and you are not alone. Remember that standing up for yourself and others makes the world a better place." Liam smiled, knowing his father was right. He felt ready for the future. Their story was no longer just about a boy whose lunch was taken. It was about hope, justice, and the kindness that can grow when people stand together.